Hi all, my name is Ashrock and this is a video tutorial on how to start modding for DDLC, specifically how to actually download the template and stuff. I am doing this kind of because when I was first starting out modding, which I mean I'm still pretty close to right now, but I couldn't really find good resources to get started, like to learn how to download a template or do basic things. Like there was one little video series, but I feel like there could be more done with it. So I decided I'd make something like this. If there's any sort of video you want to see, please let me know down in the description. I'll cover a little bit of like planned out videos that I have for the future during this video itself. So probably wait till the end before you start to suggest something. Alright, so first step to downloading is literally downloading all of the things you need. The first link in the description will be the this website. The modding template itself was developed by Monica After Story by the Rational Pi. Make sure you use version 0.2.0. I foolishly used 0.1.0 the first time I tried it, and it's missing a lot of features. So you are definitely going to want to use this version. Yeah, it's really nice. If you can see here, advanced scripts is mainly the stuff that was added, and it's really nice. It's really convenient. That's including stuff like writing poems, and there's a lot of other stuff there that I'm totally forgetting. But a lot of different files from the original game and stuff are included that weren't included before, and it makes it a lot easier. You have two options. Basically, there's community assets in the game, which is different images of Monica in the space room, and like she is given different facial expressions and stuff. This was put together by this team. If you want the community assets, download this one. If you don't want the community assets, download this one. I have downloaded this several times before because this is not my first recording attempt for this, so I am going to trust that you know how to download it. Once you do download it, you are going to want to unzip the file so you can access its contents. Next is RenPy. You want to want, I think you just use the first link. It's worked for me. I don't really know what these other two are. It seems to be the smallest, and since it works, yeah. I really don't know what the difference is between the three. Also, I've downloaded this. Okay, so when you first download it, I'm gonna go into my files. It'll probably appear in your downloads folder, I'm assuming, because unless you've rerouted it or something, it'll appear something like this. If you double click it, it will go through exporting it for you, and you'll probably just want to export it into your downloads folder. If you export here, it'll look something like this. If you look inside, it will not have this or this, but it will have all the other files that were in here before. Okay, so this is basically a mod that I've already added here. It's basically the complete modding template. I can go delete it now, just so I can go through this process with you. I totally forgot to do that beforehand. Okay, and then this file here, Editra, this is the software that I personally use to edit the code. I downloaded it through RenPy, so it's showing up here. If you don't have something like that yet, it is perfectly fine. When you watch RenPy the first time, it'll prompt you to download one of them if you don't have something already. I'll go through that when we actually go to download when we actually go through first opening RenPy. Last thing you're going to need, is not that link, but this one. You're going to download a new copy of the game, so download now, unless you want to donate. No thanks, go to downloads. If this loads, please load. There's a Windows version, there's a Mac version. I have downloaded the Windows version because it's a Windows computer. Alright, so it'll appear in your downloads folder looking something like this, ddlc-win.zip. You do not need to unzip this file at all. It should work just fine without it. Inside the first folder, you'll see characters, game, lib, and renpy. You're going to want to go into game, and then copy all of the RPA files in here. Easy way to do it. Click on the bottom one, hold shift, click on font. It'll highlight all three at once. Press control and hold it, and then click on the audio, and you can just copy the ones you need into the unzipped version of the modding template. I've already done this. So the DDLC is complete is what I've named it. I would suggest you just copy your template over or just save it to your desktop, because it makes things a little bit easier. It gives you a backup in case something happens to it. And also, I will suggest deletions later from the main version. So having a complete version of the template would be nice, because opening your modding template, the one you're using for your actual mod, it will take a very long time if you have to open all of the files, because there's a lot of excess stuff that's not actually needed, but is given by them for kind of overview purposes, and also because they have a tutorial with the modding template, there's stuff relating to the tutorial in there that you probably won't need once you learn about how to use RunPy. Oh, RunPy. RunPy, I told you to download it earlier, but I never told you what it is. RunPy is a basically a system used to create visual novels, and that's what that's what DDLC was created on. And yeah, so you can use it even if you don't want to create a DDLC mod, if you want to just learn how to create your own game and stuff. But I'm assuming you probably want to mod DDLC since you're watching this. All right. So you copied those files earlier, but I never told you exactly where to put them. You want to put them into the game folder, and in here you can see that I already have copied them over. There's something, yeah, here it is. So all the files are already in there, and that's perfect. Now what you're going to want to do is copy this. Well, basically copy your template. I would also suggest making a copy of the complete template, then deleting it once I tell you what to delete. Alright, so we're going to go into RunPy, and basically just paste it in here. It's going to take a bit because there's a lot of files in there. And it'll appear on the bottom temporarily, but it'll move itself up to whatever position it needs to be over time. So now that it's in there, you can literally just run RunPy, which is the .exe file. The first time you run it, it seems to take a little bit longer. Well, first time you run it, each time you turn on your computer and stuff, but it will open eventually. Let's see. Ooh, about RunPy again. Make sure you download the version that I linked to you in the description, otherwise it will not work super well, because it's just not compatible with the other versions. I say work super well, but it's probably not going to work at all. Okay, so the important things here, this is the mod. It's located in top tutorial in the question, which are RunPy stuff, which I'm probably not going to cover, under projects. When you're wanting to click on a specific project, when you're wanting to open a specific project, make sure you click on it beforehand. When you see all script files here, this will open up your code, and launch project will basically launch a test version. When you do that, it will let you know if there's any issues in the game when it first starts to run. And if you encounter any issues throughout your playthrough, it will let you know. If it can, it will it'll first let you know, and you can try to ignore the problem and see if it's kind of localized there, or you can try to continue on in the game. Yeah, and also let you know line numbers and stuff in your code, which will be very convenient when you're trying to go and solve your problems, because there will definitely be little issues in your code, really stupid mistakes like forgetting a colon. I have done that so many times. So we're opening all of the files right now. It's going to take a long time and not respond, just because of the large number of files that we actually have to open. This is why I will suggest you delete certain things in this whole thing, because there's just a bunch of stuff for it to open, and it gets a little bit overwhelmed with opening it all. Oh, I should talk about Editor. So when you open the files for the first time, if you don't have something like Editor already installed, it will prompt you to download one. You will just download it right away when you press it. You don't have to be linked to another site or anything. You don't have to download it anywhere else. It will just download it from that page. It's really convenient. When I did that the first time, it tried to run Editor right away, and it didn't work. But when I closed that window and tried to relaunch the files and stuff, it did work. So if you encounter that issue, that's the way it's solved for me. So don't be alarmed if that happens to you the first time. Alright, so we are inside the files. This is very exciting. If I press this button here, you can see where all the files are. There is a lot of them. So you can see just throughout, all the T stuff is stuff I will ask you to delete. from this version, and actually any version, the scripts I will ask you to delete just from your mod, because these are the main scripts from the game, and they won't be necessary for everything, and they will just cause a bunch of lag when you're trying to open it up. Before we get into that though, I'm going to go through all the windows, and, well, most of the windows. I don't know quite yet what some of them do. Script is basically telling your game, like, in what order to run certain things. So, this persistent playthrough equaling 0. Basically, there's an act structure within the game. Haha, I'm totally not reading. Their acts are basically the main events in the game that happen. Sayori hanging herself is the first one. After Yuri cures herself, it's another change. And then once you delete Monica, it's another change between acts. So, yeah, your acts are basically each run through of the game kind of thing before it basically restarts. So, that's how this works. This will let you know which act you're on. The code itself starts at 0, but if you really want to, you can start at 1 if that makes more sense to you. You'll also have to make sure you change over this, like, first starting one and then adjust the ones that follow. You can see that it's calling an example chapter here. This call function will basically jump you to a certain part of your code. So if we look for where example chapter is, I happen to know where it is. It is in script example. And you can see that it's labeled with example chapter. So this is where it's going to jump you in the code. I'm going to go back. Alright, so basically within these you'll be calling certain things. I would suggest you break it down into days and have at least a new file on top of here for each day. To create a new file, it's very simple. You press this button, and then when you want to go save it, I will just go through this with you. Pressing the new button, it'll open an untitled file. When you go to save it though, it's very important that you save it as a renpy file. So if you scroll down, you will see renpy here, .rpy or .rpym. It's very important that you do this, and when you're saving, go back into renpy, go into your mod, and save it into game. The mod template doesn't seem to be able to access things that are outside the game folder. So if you see, there's a lot of files outside of here, again, scripts, community assets, and then these two, which probably won't be important in your final mod. But you need to make sure that if you edit either of these types of files, so if you look in advanced scripts, there's CGs, poems, stuff you might want to edit, you want to make sure that you save these into your game file. Basically, you can just file save these again, and you can have a copy in each place. But definitely make sure that they're in this folder. Okay, so now we've gone into scripts and creating a new file. We'll go to the next one that I know about, which is CGs. I don't really know too much about options. So the CGs of the game are still images like Yuri's death scene when you're spending the night with her. I'm really sorry if you haven't played through the game. And when you're reading the book with Yuri against the wall and you feed her chocolate, and when you're reading with Natsuki as well and she's turning her head at you. So these are the CGs. Basically you can see how all of them are formatted. What's important to note is that they're labeled image, and then this thing here, this is kind of a shortcut to call the image. So calling is bringing it up in this case. You can see that it starts with that, and then you can see the image being defined here. It's a little bit more complicated with some of the CGs. You can see this one's a little more simple. Then you get into things like this. That's why it's very important that you use these instead of just calling the image file itself. Because it's a lot of added on things, and it just works a lot better if you have those two. Alright, I don't quite know what console is, but credits. This is basically how the credits in the game works. This includes the karaoke with Monica and how that's all set up. That's when she sings your reality to you. So it also has all the image files too. Alright, definitions, probably the most important thing here because it sets up a bunch of different shortcuts for you. I am scrolling to the top and it's taking so long because there's so much stuff in here. So you can see here there's a few different formatting stuff like deleting all your saves, which is very important, deleting your character name, you're deleting character, not your character name. So if you want to delete Sayori's like game file or whatever, at a certain point, this is what you'll use. We're defining our audio, basically giving a shortcut if you want to access it later. You can see the file defined here. I will go into audio and stuff in another video, hopefully. Backgrounds. You can see that they're all defined here with their little shortcuts afterwards. So these will be what you're referring to when you're setting the scene kind of thing, along with the music. If you ever forget what they're called, you basically have a little database of the names here. But there is also a handy DDLC scripting guide that was put together that can really help you kind of visualize what the backgrounds look like. It basically has an image of a lot of the different backgrounds, so you can reference it if you've forgotten what it looks like in game. And now we get to all of the character images. If you don't already know, the images of the girls are split up into a certain pose and then a certain facial expression. The pose is indicated by a number, and then the facial expression is indicated by a letter. There's a little bit of a catch here though. If you are in normal clothing, you will just have the number for the pose. But if you are in your casual clothing, which is kind of your weekend wear type thing, you'll have 1B and then the expression letter. All of these are on the scripting guide, so it's very easy to do that. I've been tempted to put together a little cheat sheet for each of these, so it's easier to see them all on one page. I'm unsure if I'm going to do that since the scripting guide's out there and it's really simple. If you really want me to do that, I can. I cannot guarantee how good it will look, but I can try my best to do that. You can see they're all defined here. And then we get into some of the variable definitions. If you don't know what a variable is, I will definitely put out a video on that and a lot of defining and stuff. So you can see each of the characters are defined here. The narrator is basically the inner monologue of your main character. This is basically what he's saying, and it's defined as MC. Sayori is S, Monica is M, Natsuki is N, Yuri is Y, and there's a point in time in the game itself where Natsuki and Yuri speak at the same time. I think the line is, "This doesn't involve you." And basically you can see them having a different name than up here, and they're defined as NY. So difference between dynamic character and character, I believe the dynamic characters to be basically you can have multiple images for that specific character versus character where they might not have images at all, or they may have one image assigned to them. Persistent variables, I'm literally just going to read because I don't quite know what these are yet. These variables are automatically saved and loaded on game start and exit. They exist across all saves. I will have to look into those to figure out what's going on with them. Basically, with a lot of variables you're using in the game, it's important to define them early on so the game understands what they are. If you're having a problem in the middle of the game or something doesn't seem to be working, like it's involving a certain variable and it's saying that the variable is not defined, your best bet is to check definitions and see if you defined it there. If not, you might want to go and do that and see if that fixes your problem. You can see the girls' names being defined here. This is the second place for defining things relating to them. You can see S underscore name, M underscore name, N underscore name, Y underscore name corresponding to the girls. You have poem appeals here. If you've read their poem, basically a bunch of the stuff is variables that were set up in the main game code. You don't necessarily have to use them if you don't want to. You can create your own variables as long as they're named differently than what's already in the game. And they can work as differently or the same as you want. It's just kind of simpler because you know exactly what they're called because you named them yourself. That was a long ramble. And now we're going to get into effects, which I don't know too much about, but it's pretty straightforward. You can see some of the stuff in here if you scroll down and see what's located in it. Yeah, I think it has a lot to do with glitching in here too. Glitch text itself is basically the random syllables that are generated sometimes, especially like during Yuri's death. And this is basically just how the game learns how to format that and everything. And it also just gives you what I believe to be the format if you want to do it yourself. GUI, I have no idea. Won't admit that. I mean, no, I would admit that, not won't admit that. I definitely admitting that. I don't know everything yet. Poems. These are the default poems in the game, and a little bit of how they're coded to work. You can see a lot of the poems in the game. I would suggest that if you do want to add poems in your mod later on, that you add a new file to do so, just because you don't really want to be messing with the normal game files. And yeah, I just kind of like to keep these for reference and stuff. Makes it a little bit easier, and also it's easier to find your poems as well because you kind of get lost in the code every once in a while. I'm finding myself as I go through my own mod that scrolling through day 1 and day 2, especially day 2, because my day 2 is over 2,000 lines long, I believe, it gets really confusing to be able to find certain aspects in there, which is also bringing me to my next point. Please use comments to kind of section out your code, let you know what's going on in every specific pace. So when you look back, when you're finished with the 3rd act of your game, you can tell what's going on, even if it's been a while. Basically, to make a comment, you just do a hashtag there, and you can put whatever text you want after it. Alright, so you can see some of the stuff for the poem here. There's an important command for showing poems, which I will go through everything involving poems on a different video, hopefully. Special poems are here. They're basically just showing an image. Special poems are a little bit different than the normal poems you receive during the game from the girls. Screens, it's a little bit just obvious. I have a list of what screens are in here, but I'll just scroll through kind of quickly. It's basically just the main screens in the game, like that main menu. I believe the warnings are in here. Okay, so the poem, this is the poem minigame, I believe? Yes. It defines how some things are worked, like your poem like and dislike threshold, which basically what tells the girls whether they should like, dislike, or be neutral to the poem. It defines the list of words that you'll be using for the poem. Once again, I'll go through all of this in a later video. Yeah, so there's a lot of important variables in here. If you're wanting to edit the poem minigame, I would suggest doing it through here. And here are some poem responses. This is all from the normal game, so I would just recommend not using this file at all and just creating your own for poem responses. Like, this is basically, if the girl sees your poem, how will they react to it? What file is this? Oh, this is the normal script of the game. I'm going to point something out because it's very important. You can see that there are 2 scripts in this game. You can see here this one is in the advanced scripts folder, and this one is in the game folder. It's important to make sure you know which one's in which, because you need to make sure whatever you're working on is in the game folder. And it's also just good to know what you're looking at, kind of thing. So you want to make sure you're paying as much attention as you need to the pop bar to make sure you know where everything is. Yeah, this script here is the main script of the game. You can see it calling all of the stuff that I've talked about earlier, like start of the chapter, end of the chapter, and then these poem responses that I was just talking about. Splash, I don't know too much about. I think it's probably because I didn't see any of these during the game myself, so it seems like there are randomly generated splash messages that I just didn't see at all during my playthrough of the game. Transformations I don't know too much about yet, though it seems to be basically how a character is shown on screen. Like, a few of these I know about. Focus is when they're growing bigger, when they just like grow a little bit bigger, not when they go close up to the camera. I would suggest like looking through here. I will show you how to actually use this formatting within the code in my next video, hopefully, which will just be covering the basics of actual modding, not like understanding it. This is a lot about the assets that I told you about earlier that was added by the Monica After Story team. So we have a daylight version of the room, like daytime version, I mean. And then you have a bunch of expressions defined for Monica when she's in that room. Alright. Main menu. It's just what the main menu looks like. I don't quite know what overrides do yet. This is basically a script that has a lot of tutorials in it. want to mention this. The comments that are already in the code, they can provide a really good tutorial on how to do certain things. So I would suggest scrolling around through these things. Yeah, it helps a lot. Here's another splash file from the actual game versus the one that is in the advanced scripts. Tutorials, basically there's a tutorial in the modding tutorial itself that you can go through if you want, but I found that it's a bit complicated to understand when you're just starting out. Maybe it won't be to you, but yeah, I don't feel like you have to go through it. Then we get to the scripts from the actual game. If you want to just peruse these, it also kind of gives you a little bit of clue in on how to do certain things. And yeah, it's kind of nice. So basically that's all that's left in here. So you can see, looking down, it's a bunch of scripts. And then a lot of the exclusive scenes with Yuri and Natsuki. And then the poem responses again down there. And that's basically all your files. So let's see, what did I want to talk about next? Okay, I'll talk about the deletions that I would make. I'm gonna close all of this because I don't need to talk about that anymore. I'm gonna close RunPy too. Okay, I'm gonna go into my mod in here. I'm not actually going to delete these things because I like having this clean version of my mod, but I did this myself in my own mod, if you want a little sneak peek on what it might be. We're gonna start in original scripts. In your version of mod, not the complete copy that you want to keep, if you want to do that, I would suggest it. I would suggest you just delete all this because it just lags out the loading process, and you don't need this in your final version. If you want to actually look at these things, I realize I probably want to have RunPy on to show you this. If you want to open a file from there that you don't have or opening with your own mod, come here, RunPy. Turn on. Sorry, it's really slow. Oh, it's gonna take so much time. I'm so sorry, guys. I really need to get a new laptop, and it's gotta save, and I'm not quite there yet. Oh, Editra, how much I hate opening you. Okay, this is a lesson. Delete your files because this is going to happen to you every time you open it, and if you accidentally close it and stuff, it's bad. Oh, I can talk about a little lesson. I have learned that even if you're launching your project, you might want to keep Editra open in the background with your files in there, because if it first tries to run your game and it's not working, you can make little adjustments in there. So if you forgot a colon somewhere, you can add that, save your editor version, which you should do often, and then if you try to reload it, it'll work. So I would suggest keeping your files open. It's also a good reference if you're wanting to see where you are, kind of thing. Alright, if you want to open a file, it's the second button here. And you can see that I can open a file from anywhere in here, so I can go outside here, look in advanced scripts and stuff. You can go outside here into RunPy too. So if you have another mod, you can go into it this way by going back into RunPy and clicking on it. This will allow you to open any folder that's in your complete mod that's not necessarily in the mod template you're using to create your own mod. So I find that really convenient myself, and I do that a lot. So I was just deleting all of the files in original scripts. You can delete all these things in Monica route answers. Basically, these were used for the tutorial inside the modding template to create a track for Monica, which you can do in your own mod, but I don't think you need to follow their template for it. I would leave the files in game alone, because these are things you'll actually be using, and I believe that none of these things are included in the actual game, so you just want to keep those in there. Community assets, you have options to use these or not. If you plan on using either one of these, make sure you add them to your game folder so your mod has access to them. Okay? And then advanced scripts. Okay, you have option to delete the script of the game if you don't want it. This is basically just the formatting of how it works. I would suggest you keep it just for reference. I end up using it a lot just to see how stuff works. If you really want to, you can delete poems and special poems, but I would really recommend that you keep it. Yeah. One thing I would suggest, if you end up modifying one of these and adding them to your games folder, you can delete them in advanced scripts, as long as you don't make too many changes to it and like delete a bunch of stuff in there. You can definitely get rid of it from advanced scripts. You don't have two copies of the file opening, one in advanced scripts and one in your games folder. So I guess there's one thing in the game file that you can delete. Actually, two things. One of them being the script example file. I would suggest you don't do this right away, because the script example has that little mini tutorial on how to do some of the simple things inside it, so you might want to keep that open. And then there's the tutorial of how to use the software and stuff and how to do a little bit more complicated stuff, but that's kind of the same thing. You don't have to do that if you don't want to. Those are just some things you can do to lessen how much you have to load. Is there anything else we can talk about? I have a Google Doc here that I'm looking off of to make sure I follow everything. Oh, suggested additions. So I told you earlier two things. One, that you should add a day file in here into your games folder for each day you have in the script. It's just so much more convenient than working off of one file or working off of the script example. It just kind of starts everything fresh and you're all good. And then I would also suggest that you make your own file for your mods poems, and that's just also a convenience thing, so you're not looking through a bunch of different files trying to find what you're looking for. I'm gonna say it seems to be about it. So I want to mention the links that are in the description. The first link, the GitHub link, will be the modding template link. Make sure you download 2.0. RenPy will be the next link. Make sure you download that version. The third link will be the link to the actual game website where you can download a version of the game and steal some files over. And then the fourth link will be to the scripting guide that let's see, who was the person that set it up? I believe it's Lolika. That person set it up, and it's so convenient. If I can actually get it to open. And the last link that I'm gonna put down there is to the modding Reddit. It's a really good place to ask questions. There's not too much judgment if you don't know how to do something. Just kind of say that you're starting out. You need a little help. I will be there. I have an account on there, so if I see your question and there's something, and I actually know how to answer it, I will not guarantee that I know how to answer it. That is a perfect place to ask it. Or in the comments below. Reddit's easier though, because other people can ask it and see it easier. Yes, it is Lolika who did put together the scripting guide. So, oh my gosh, this recording actually went well. I have tried, this is the 6th attempt for it. Also, we're going to mention that this is a new headset for me, so if stuff doesn't sound good this first recording session, I apologize. I have some software to edit like certain functions of this headset, and it looks like you're launching a rocket using the software because it's so complicated. So I will try to get better using this, and also learning how to position my mic on the headset and stuff between episodes, not episodes, but between videos, and I'll see what I can do for you guys. Oh my gosh, this is done. I really enjoyed putting this together for you, and I hope that this really helps you out. I'm sorry that it's so long, but I guess there's a bunch of stuff I want to talk about. I told you during the video that I will be putting together a basic tutorial on how to mod. So adding your characters to the game and actually showing them on screen, how to actually put together dialogue, and how to transition between scenes and set the scene. So that's probably what you can look forward to next. I hope to also, for some of you advanced ones out there, I plan to do some more advanced features, such as adding new characters to the game, adding your own music, adding your own assets and stuff later on. But this is it, I guess. So, see ya, guys.